Hey, it's Tia Carrere, and you're listening to Kino Kingdom with Britt
and Lazlo
and Rupert. Party on, guys.
Hello all and welcome to Kino Kingdom 118. We've actually had a massive bump in listeners, so I thought I'd better sort of explain a few things. One, you're probably not going to enjoy this. You won't want to knock it on there. No, and just that we do something called the Arkansas, which is sort of later on in the podcast, which is a sort of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon linking between two actors. In this episode, it is between Kurt Russell and Charles Grodin. And the links have to work through through films, through actors in films. So you can't have like some cinematographer or a boom holder. It has to be through actors. So that's it. That's all the explanation you're going to get. I'm Britt, and I'm joined by Rupert and Lazlo, and we are going to talk about films. We're going to talk about Godfrey Ho films. We'll mention Chuck Norris, various other bits. But first of all, we're going to kick off, which has been a sort of a semi-regular thing until I run out of these quiz cards. We're going to start off with a little quiz. So the rules are, you get this. I've got multiple choice here, but as far as I'm concerned, that's cheating. So you've got 20 questions, guys. If you get the question off the bat, you get 2 points. If you have to go to the multiple choice, you get 1 point. What's your team name this week?
Quiz Hurley.
Ooh, nice. Nice.
Can I just mention one other thing about the Arkansas? The official rules state that you're not allowed to use the internet or any other tools. You've got to use just your knowledge of film to make the connections.
Yeah, we've had some pretty funny examples in the past where people have literally just said, I've gone into charity shops looking at the films and reading the backs in like a vain bid to get from like Brian Bosworth.
Yeah. Imagine you're doing this in 1991.
Yeah, which is when Stone Cold with Brian Bosworth was released, actually, now that you mention it.
Well, there you go.
I feel like it's not cheating, is it? If you peruse your own DVD shelves, that's like that's like knowledge that you have already that you may have just forgotten.
And you need a refresher.
Happen upon the DVD of the Delta Force.
And also, if you don't know who an actor is, it's okay to look it up to get like a starting point. But we usually mention a few films in the podcast so people have like a starting point for it. For instance, Brian Bosworth, Stone Cold, off you go. Really, there's so many links in that. Actually, I did watch a Brian Bosworth film this week with Brad Dourif in it, which is nice.
All right.
I've always wanted to watch One Tough Bastard just because of the name.
Oh, do you know what? That's the one that used to be in the video shop, and I can't believe I've never seen it. Did I watch it? No, it was Stone Cold. That's the one that ends up in the White House, isn't it?
But for no reason, we discovered it's not the White House. It's just a White House. It's very disappointing.
Classic Bosworth. Okay. Then quiz Hurley. So you go, your first question. And feel free to play along at home. What, and I'll say that again, what was Disney's 2016 follow-up to their 2003 smash Finding Nemo?
Finding Dory.
Boom. 2 points off the bat. Good work. Might want to pick up the slack a little bit there, Lazlo.
Sorry.
You're not really adding much to this.
I watched those so many times as well. It's weird how I forgot.
I still haven't seen Finding Dory, I don't think. Is it Dory Funk Jr., the dead wrestler? Oh no, he's still alive, I think.
Weirdly. It really took a bit of a turn.
It'd be so depressing if it was called like, I don't know, like Finding, what's his name, Wes Bentley or something, and it's all like the animated fish, and then after like an hour and a half of these sort of anarchic cartoon action, they're like, oh, there he is, and he's just face down dead, floating in the water. It would have to be dead. Who starred as a pregnant sheriff in the Coen brothers' 1996 cult classic Fargo?
Frances McDormand.
Sorry, I misread the question. Who starred as a pregnant Omar Sharif? I meant to say that. No, so you are right. That is Frances McDormand. A woman who in her younger years, I could never work out if I fancied her or not.
Yes, you did.
Oh, thanks for clearing that up, Rupert.
Yeah.
Who played a struggling actor who cross-dresses as a woman in order to land a part in the Oscar-winning movie Tootsie, 1982?
Dustin Hoffman.
Are these all films you've watched recently?
I have seen Tootsie. It's another one of those ones I've seen an odd number of times because we used to have it on recorded off the TV VHS.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Was it paused for the adverts?
Of course.
Oh, so you didn't
At
get
least you could fast forward the adverts.
You didn't get the skeleton Scotch tape on where you can record over and over and over, and then Aristotle saw that advert.
Were there any moments when someone forgot to press record again when the advert stopped, so you missed a bit of the movie?
Oh yeah, classic. Now I think about it, fast forwarding the adverts was less of a ball ache than sitting through the unskippable adverts on Amazon Prime now.
It's almost like we've gone backwards. The thing is, if you know, like for instance, if you were like watching an action film and then you fast forwarded too far and press play like after the film has started, and it'd be like fucking hell, and you're like, oh, I didn't hear him say the F. I'm gonna have to go back a bit now. I have no idea what that term could have been. Indiana Jones had a phobia of which creatures?
Snakes.
No, it was making a good fourth entry in the franchise, unfortunately, Rupert.
Right.
And a fifth.
Careful now, we've all had a drink. The first casualty of war is innocence is the tagline of which 1986 Vietnam War film?
Platoon.
Yeah. None of the others here were made in 1986. It's Apocalypse Now, The Thin Red Line, and Hamburger Hill. I really feel like I need to watch The Thin Red Line again because the last time I watched it, it was when it came out, and I don't think I appreciated it.
It's good. It's got a distracting cast, though.
Yeah, it's a very good-looking film, isn't it? Yes, but it's like a roll call of Hollywood actors.
Yeah.
Barry Pepper in it?
It probably is, to be honest.
Good. Which film features the famous line, I think we're going to need a bigger boat?
Finding Dory. No, Jaws.
Finding Wes Bentley. Perfect. So that's, you're up to 12. This is all good. I'm actually keeping score now, not just guessing at the end. And silently flicking through cards, counting out loud under my breath. Great content for a podcast. According to Gene Kelly, who was his favorite on-screen dancing partner?
Who's he danced with? Gene Kelly. Oh God.
Would you like to go to the multiple choice?
Rupert, do you think you could have a stab? I mean, he was in Singing in the Rain. It's probably Fred Astaire or something a little unexpected to be a guy. I don't know.
What are the? Let's go multiple, shall we?
Okay. That's disappointing. So the multiple choices are Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby, and Bill Crosby. No, and Judy Garland.
Well, it's going to be one of the first two. It's going to be Ginger or Fred. Should we go Ginger?
But, okay, because there's male options, it feels like that's what it's going to be. If otherwise, it's not really very notable.
So which one are you going to go for, guys?
Fred.
You were right. It's Fred Astaire.
Whoa.
Does that just mean he hated women and just like any man would do?
Massive misogynist.
Any man will do. Which 1975 movie smash was the first to ever be described as a blockbuster?
Surely that's just Jaws again, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is Jaws again. Where does the term blockbuster come from?
Is it to do with them queuing around the block? I
Mm.
might be wrong.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah. I was thinking of American terminology for charts and stuff, but yeah, that's it. Raging Bull. Someone is typing that up. I can hear it. They're like, "Oh, what's happening? What's happening?"
Yeah. Rupert
Raging
wasn't convinced by my answer on that one.
Raging Bull from 1980 starred Robert De Niro as which real-life boxing legend?
Jake LaMotta.
Oh, nicely done. Yeah, so that takes you up to 70.
Say Ray LaMotta. Thank God you said it first.
The other ones
The
were
term blockbuster
yeah.
began to appear in American press in the early 1940s, referring to blockbuster bombs, aerial munitions capable of destroying a whole block of buildings.
That's a different type of blockbuster.
I'm not getting the connection there.
It's also named after Buff Bagwell's special move in WCW wrestling, either.
I'm just going back. I like the way our answer was Jaws again. Like that's like the sequel. Got Jaws again. Jaws another time.
Jaws for fuck's sake. Again. What was the Tin Man lacking in the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz?
A heart?
Yes, it was, gentlemen. Okay, 19. Good. In Saving Private Ryan, how many of Ryan's brothers had been killed in combat?
I want to say 3.
Yeah, I want to say 3.
And you should both say 3, and it's right.
3. We didn't quite do it in unison, but no.
Which James Bond actor used to work as a coffin polisher? Bloody hell. That just sounds like a euphemism, doesn't it? I'm just going upstairs to polish my coffin, mummy.
I mean...
Sure.
So, it's going to be probably, because, I mean, What's-His-Face was a model. Roger Moore was obviously an actor before he was James Bond. Sean Connery was he plucked out of nowhere? Because he was a Mr. Universe and stuff. Yeah, let's go with Connery.
Yeah, I mean, you lived in Scotland when you are right. You lived in Scotland when you was young. And the life expectancy up there, with what they eat, drink, and inject, isn't great, is it? So he probably had a fair few coffins to get through before lunch. Who played Aragorn in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy?
Viggo Mortensen.
Oh my God, look at him. I'm waiting for a Kubrick one to come out just to piss me off. Which James Bond actor was contractually forbidden from wearing a tuxedo in any of the movies between 1995 and 2002? Well, that gives it away a bit.
I know this one.
We've had this one before.
It's Pierce Brosnan.
Give it away.
The Shawshank Redemption was based on a book by which horror author?
Stephen King.
Bloody hell. Okay. How many Oscars did Titanic pick up at the 1997 Academy Awards?
We've had this one.
Have we had these?
We got it wrong because of me. So go with your answer, Rupert.
I'll just say it's 11. I'll just say you've won. I must have picked up, must have jumbled the cards up. Oh, what a waste of a quiz. I'll edit this out. Oh, will I? So, well done, guys. Clap quiz, Hurley. We're moving on to the next segment of the program, which is Chuck Norris has passed away at the age of 86.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's a good innings.
It's a good innings. This isn't a cricket podcast, unfortunately. So if you can move the language away from that and more towards movies, that'd be great. I think is his best performance though in Lone Wolf McQuade. That's what I'm assuming.
That's where he's doing roly polies in the backyard, shooting a shotgun.
With a sawn-off shotgun, shooting at some hay. Yeah, in denim cut-offs and like a plaid vest tucked into his jeans. No belt, yes, and Timberland boots with thick white socks, even though it's like a blazing Texas sun. Yeah, that one I think is the one for me. It's the one that one. Oh no, go on. Sorry, I was going to say it's the one that when he died, I thought I have to watch Lone Wolf McQuade again. That was my entry to him.
Is that the one where the poster he's like holding two Uzis and they're both firing in different directions, and he's looking in neither direction? He's just looking down the camera.
I think that's Invasion USA. I think that's the one. That film is insane. Absolutely insane. I think that's the one at the end where he smashes like a motorbike through a stained glass window in a church or something. That's the Delta Force, is it? Oh my God. That's the one.
Delta Force is also the one with Robert Forster in blackface.
It was a different time, wasn't it? It's a different time.
You were bang on about Invasion USA.
Oh, I was. Yeah. I'm going to guess.
One of the Uzis is almost like horizontal to the direction he's looking. No,
we'll be talking about Uzis later
90 degrees, sorry. That's what I mean.
So, which film are you guys going to watch then to celebrate his legacy?
I'm going to watch this. I don't think I've seen Invasion USA.
Oh, yeah, it'll be Lone Wolf McQuade.
We get it.
Tempting. It's just, is it silent rage or is it forced vengeance? Who knows?
I wouldn't rush to watch Silent Rage. It's just, that's the one where it starts off and you're just watching a load of what you think are bin men for a few minutes. And I thought, have I put the wrong film on? What was that film I put on before? And it was the wrong film on Amazon under the wrong title, and also it was the wrong subtitles to it.
Limey.
The Limey, that was it. It was the Limey. So, yeah, I didn't know what the hell was going on. Watching.
I just realised there's a Delta Force 2, so maybe
I wouldn't be surprised if there was a 3. But yeah, so yeah, Chuck Norris. We'll cover some of the films next time. I haven't watched. I've been too busy watching Brian Bosworth and Godfrey Ho, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, we'll go to the meat of the podcast now. We'll dive into the films. I'm assuming Lazlo's got the most. So do you want to kick off, Laz?
Sure. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13
Still counting.
films.
Oh my god!
I actually like to stop because I was like, I'm not going to remember any of this shit when it comes.
I just can't believe you watched all the Children of the Corn films. It's impressive.
Most of them, anyway.
So what's the first one? What's the cream of the crop you got there?
Yeah, so I've got to go back the furthest in time. This was weeks ago. I watched this the day it came out. War Machine on Netflix.
Oh, perfect. That was one of mine. So yeah, I'll jump in at the end then. Perfect.
Cool. I don't know about you, but I enjoyed the shit out of this film.
Yes, I did.
I'm straining to remember it now, but I remember at the time enjoying it a lot. So this has got Alan Ritchson in it. It's a Netflix original, in quote marks, sci-fi action film, which is kind of a remix of Predator, but instead of an alien, we have like a kind of an alien robot.
You said too many words there. It's not kind of. It is Predator and it is an alien. So don't jazz it up.
It's if you said like the Predator instead of the Predator, you got Ed 209. This is that film. And I don't know that for if you're a fan of action films, there's a lot to enjoy here. It looks expensive. It's got crunchy, bloody violence, great stunts. It's very pacey. It's nicely shot, even if it does have a whiff of the Netflix kind of washed out, shitty blue-green color grade. And yeah, so to cover the story for what it's worth, it starts off in Afghanistan with a very predictable scene and a cameo from Jai Courtney that lets you know off the bat that the script is not going to be winning any Oscars. But then it jumps forward in time to quite a weirdly rousing and engrossing Ranger training camp sequence that I got weirdly sucked into it. So it was kind of jarring then when in the middle of it, they had like a TV news report that meteors were flying around the Earth or something. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm watching a stupid schlocky sci-fi film here instead of a military thing. But Alan Ritchson, who's probably best known for playing Jack Reacher on Amazon TV, he was really good. He continues to be charismatic and likable and good at kicking ass like he is in that show. There's a bit in terms of the stunts. There's a bit where he has to cross a rapids and he's standing at the edge of this river that is moving at a pace, and you think right now we're going to cut to a stunt double or something as he rappels across, and he just jumps straight in, and the rapids just carry him straight off down the river, and it's like, oh shit, that looked like he did that for real. And I thought, he's cool. So that's what you kind of want really in an action film with a big stupid giant muscle man in the lead. Yeah, and the alien war machine thing is nicely designed, even if it is just like a flashy Ed 209 thing. I like the way that it's kind of brutal. It's not like it doesn't toy with anyone. It just, as soon as it sees you, it just blows off whatever limb it scans first, kind of thing, and obliterates his team. which you kind of so every time his squad go up against it, you kind of think you're pretty fucked here, really. So that was good. Obviously, they have to come up with some way to get rid of them, and it obviously sets up sequels. And at the end, it leaned quite heavily into the sort of pro-American military cheese that left a bit of a bitter taste. But as Netflix action films go, I would say this is definitely on the upper levels of quality.
I'd absolutely agree. I was with you in the. I'm not even a fan of military films, but the sort of back end you get and his sort of determination to make his way through this like really grueling camp, and I was the same as you. I thought, if the film is all this, I kind of don't mind, because I went into it not really knowing what it was, but Utah Smith is the podcast, the friend of the podcast, said it's just funny how they saw this training and they're the best of the best, and just when the alien sort of sees them, just how quickly things take a turn, and they realize like what they're up against. And I love films where you just think, how are they going to get out of this? And then it's sort of acceptable in the way they do it. And yet at the end, when it was sort of tries to the sequel, I thought, this is kind of one of those times where I kind of don't care if they never make one, because this was so much fun. It's really derivative, but it was so much fun. Did you notice that bit where Alan, I keep on wanting to say Alan Richardson is dragging one of his comrades across the floor, and they're hiding, and they're both lying. He's lying down and they're chatting, and Alan Richardson is lying. If you imagine, he's lying flat on like a sort of a sloped, muddy surface, and he's like leaning back as if he's trying to give himself a double chin, and he's looking over to the side. They're hiding from this sort of scan. He's chatting to the bloke he's dragging, and I thought, my God, you look like Greg Davis when you're in that position. Don't do that. And he does it for a couple of minutes, and I thought, you're really showing off your, the fat of your neck, and you look like Greg Davis. So that amused me. But yeah, I really liked it. I liked how they were all sort of picked apart, and how it, like I said, it just reflects Predator. You get all these like gung ho guys, and then when they're
a lot like Predator,
when they're up against something that is like truly beyond them, they're like, oh dear. And it's kind of a lot. As much of a man against nature in some bits as it is man against machine or alien, because, like you say with the Rapids part, there are so many parts where they're just like fighting against the geography of where they are as well. Yeah, I think it was to me it was, like I say, very derivative, but a really, really good action film.
Yeah,
you say it kind of ends up quite pro-military by the end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean the whole Rangers training camp thing is like, it's grueling, but it's all very like, this is, the American, this is how we create American heroes kind of.
Right. Because that's a slight inversion of Predator, which was ultimately quite like, well, I wouldn't say it's anti-war exactly, but it was definitely quite critical of like machismo, wasn't it, in the end?
Yeah. I get, yes, it's riffing on sort of a Vietnam War scenario, isn't it? Where
it is quite I do love the end of Predator, where he's just got the 1,000-yard stare at the helicopter, where he's just done, absolutely done. And considering it is 1987, the time of machismo and action films, and that it is Arnie, there's no quip. There's no quip. It's like, no, that was full on. That was
like a year after Top Gun and stuff.
Yeah. It's the inverse of this ending, where he's like manning up to lead the next, army of people,
ready for action sort of thing, and you're like, really, do you want to lie down for a bit first?
Yeah. It did remind me, actually, the troop that he has are not anything like as memorable as the guys in Predator. Like, oddly, they give them numbers. They don't even have names, so you kind of don't really know. You can't remember which number was which person. Really, they're kind of fodder, but it doesn't matter because he's the star of the show, really.
Oh, yeah, good film.
I'd happily watch him beating the shit out of anything, really. He can keep doing that stuff if he's.
If you go on Twitter, you can watch him beating the shit out of his neighbour next. So there's that as well. Maybe that's a sequel. Have you not seen that clip?
No. Is that real?
I thought you just both. Yeah, he was over the last week. He was racing with his kids with like motorbikes up and down. I guess like his neighborhood, and his neighbor stands in front of his bike to sort of say, "Can you stop just revving up and down the street?" And he brakes so hard he kind of falls off his bike. He goes up to the guy. The guy pushes him, and he just gives him a couple of rabbit punches and drops him. And then the guy was interviewed afterwards, and he says, "Yeah, it was my fault. That was." So okay. Yeah, I thought you would have both seen it. You can find it online after this.
Wow.
I'll be checking that out.
I mean, to be honest, even if he kicked his neighbor to death and set his house on fire, I still watch the sequel. I don't care about these people. I just want to watch a good film.
Wouldn't be the first Hollywood actor with a made questionable life choices who we've enjoyed their films.
Yeah, and if you are listening,
all 4 Lethal Weapons in the last week.
And if you are listening, Army Hammer, hope things are turning a corner for you. Yeah, he probably paused playing Blood 1997. I thought, they're talking about me.
With a name like Army Hammer,
and brown sauce.
He really should have become an action guy, shouldn't he? With a name like Army Hammer, he missed his window there.
I was going to say he did, didn't he? But I watched him in one film that was a thriller, and then I watched him in another film, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which I remember that not being very good.
It wasn't the best, was it?
Right. So, do you want to hitch up your skirt, Rupert, and show us your garter?
Yeah, sure. I've watched a couple of documentaries. Should get us excited. It's not quite Chuck Norris, but hey. I watched Inside the Manosphere on Netflix.
Oh, I watched this too.
The latest documentary from Louis Theroux. And it's first with Netflix. And it's kind of the same formula as usual. Louis meets a variety of edge case nutters and disarms them with his affability. Difference here is that they're all hard right online influencers who are filming him at the same time. So there's kind of dual narrative thing going on where we see the interactions from Louis' point of view, but at the same time there are clips going out to the influencers' acolytes who are obviously egging on their messiah to make Louis Theroux look foolish. It's quite unlikely you would have heard of any of these men. HS Tiki Toki, Sneeko, Myron Gaines, Justin Waller, Ed Matthews. I hadn't heard of any of them. So their whole shtick is just general misogyny and homophobia, really. Not so much racism, I guess, so there's that going for them. But they're all about being alpha male and gaining material wealth and exploiting women and selling dodgy investment products, really. All by means of gaming the TikTok algorithm. Yeah, so it's pretty uncomfortable and depressing a lot of the time, but also very watchable. I think so he's meeting these guys and hanging out with them, and they're just being extremely paranoid and saying really unpleasant things about women mostly. I think what it slightly lacks is any insight into the kind of broader social context in which these men become popular on the internet. Because they've all got millions of followers. Because I suppose it's not completely inevitable that you do get these, but there is these kind of people, but there is some kind of cultural malaise and a perceived feminization of Western culture, I suppose. And I suppose the common response you get to the likes of these grotesque individuals is to identify them as a result of a society that's devalued men in some way, which may be partly true, but they still also do have a choice whether or not to be unalloyed cunts. So there is that. And just as their followers have the choice whether to follow them in the first place, to me, they're just low effort alternatives to actual male role models. They kind of represent hyperbolized versions of the worst natural impulses of men, like arrogance and aggression and domination and lack of empathy, whilst at the same time just opting out of any decency or kind of societal duty or hard work, because their whole thing is just about lazily exploiting modern social structures in just an indecent way. At absolute best, they could come across as exaggerated internet trolls, but they're not funny, so there's nothing really going on there. So Louis Theroux makes some observations about the streamer's personal motivations, and basically it comes down to daddy issues, really. But yeah, there's nothing really about the wider cultural context. I know he, as a documentarian, tends to focus on interacting with the subjects, but I think perhaps there could have been just a second episode to try and get to the bottom of what's going on, what's producing this fertile ground for these arseholes to grow in. But it's definitely worth a watch, although you'll come away distressed and probably a little bit depressed as well. Yeah. It's good. If you like Louis Theroux, then crack on, absolutely.
I missed the first 10 minutes of this. So I'd need to go back and watch it, because so you say he doesn't cover how they've why these guys in particular have kind of risen to the top of the crop in terms of.
Yeah, it doesn't really explain what, or put forward any kind of theories as to why it is that these people have kind of come to prominence, I guess, in the age of streaming. Why is it that suddenly now this kind of worldview is so popular amongst young men, especially because you're watching them and you're thinking just on this clearly hideous people, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be a degree of manipulating of the system,
absolutely
to rank up in search results and all that kind of thing. So, do they have corporate sponsorship and that, or?
Yeah, they tend to sell some really dodgy, investment products and
Was the word rug pull mentioned at any point in this?
Rug pull.
Yeah, that's what they do, isn't it? Yeah, where they just set up these sort of cryptocurrencies, and they're like, oh yeah, and everyone invests, and then oh no, suddenly it's tanked. Yeah, every time.
Yeah, it's all that kind of shit. But yeah, so there's all that going on, and I mean, it's this weird. One thing that Louis Theroux does really well is kind of point out the hypocrisies in what they're saying, especially I think it's Myron Gaines, who's a real nasty piece of work, and his whole thing is about criticizing women for being impure and all this kind of stuff, and you should settle down with a wife and all this kind of stuff. And yet at the same time, he's totally exploiting all these cam girl women and just hanging out with all these sluts with big boobs and stuff. And it's okay, not really living the life you're espousing, are you? So
they seem to actively.
They don't seem to care, any of them, about the hypocrisy or anything like that. You just seem to keep saying, "Oh, you just don't get it. You just don't get it." It's what don't I get? What don't I get? What am I failing to see here?
Yeah,
it just seems really depressing. Well, it is really depressing because, as you say, with these men, it's so easy to dismantle any supposed thought process they have, or any what they perceive as being the core of their being. It's just words. They say things, and then it doesn't stand up to their lives or what they actually do and how they act. So I wouldn't watch this because I know these people are out there, but I just choose to ignore them because it's depressing. They've got millions of followers, but I think that there are so many vulnerable men, young men especially, that feel this explains why my life's the way it is, and I have to make no changes. All I have to do is hate. So I'm doing that anyway. So this is kind of confirmation bias. It's all I have to do is just hate, and nothing is my fault because what you're saying, even though you live a completely different life to me, is just kind of backs up an excuse for me to not do anything positive in my life.
Well, and especially if you start from the premise that you're some sort of victim of something, that men have been so completely devalued in society that you're so hard done by. It's even if that were the case, you're still choosing to just fucking opt out of trying to make the world a better place, and you're instead turning to just exploiting it and exaggerating all of your worst aspects. So it's not even true anyway. They're just offering no hope whatsoever to men is just really ugly.
And then
situation.
feeding off their own fans financially as well for these like investment
Yeah.
products and sponsorships that aren't there to. Yeah, I've seen brief clips of people where they say, if you sign up, I'll show you like how to win at life, and they just basically just rant the same way they do for free on their webcams. So you're not imparting any information here. I can't take notes. You're just talking bollocks. Yeah, it's depressing and it is sad.
Yeah, and what I was going to say, like the ending of it was particularly dispiriting because he kind of he gets. It's one of those things where he goes to talk to one of the guys who's been geeing himself up after their initial interview. I can't remember his name, but and then he goes to yes, Tiki Toki, and he goes to see him again, and this time Tiki Toki is kind of set a trap for him of sorts. So he's got his own guy filming him, and then at one point when he's had enough, he just kind of walks away from through and just goes up to his own camera and kind of has a little rant, and that's where he'll sign off his feed, and then you miss what happened afterwards, and it felt like there's a bit of like Louis Theroux, Borat syndrome, where everyone knows what he's about, so, and especially these guys in this documentary, so they're prepared for him. They're all very self-conscious about falling into a trap, and so they try to then counteract against him, and it does feel a little bit like they're running circles around him at points because he has got such a traditional known format, and their arguments are like sand. It makes no sense. It doesn't withstand even the vaguest of scrutiny. So when he questions him on what he means by that or why he said that, he just says, because I don't give a fuck. And you're like, well, there's no arguing with that, is there? And he kind of wins through lack of even attempting to play the game. So it's weird. And you just go, well, I wouldn't have a clue how to approach that person either, because their answer to everything is going to be the opposite, and they don't care if it's inconsistent.
Yes. Is it? I think it's Tiki Toki as well, whose mum is there at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is quite amusing, especially when he lets slip that he calls her mummy. It's quite amusing.
Yeah. And she clearly doesn't really approve of all the things he says, but then when he gets riled, she jumps to his aid, sort of thing. That's all, these little mummy boys need.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it's so just insecure as well. Like I mean, that's the one thing they have consistent, is that they're deeply insecure. They're all like have wives and they sleep around, but their wives are strictly forbidden from sleeping with anyone else. It's that sort of thing.
So that they're having their cake and get to eat it then.
Yes,
because that's what we all want to do, isn't it? We all want to have like a home life, but then go out shagging and drinking all the time. That's what every man wants.
Exactly it. We're just jealous, really. That's
and women are just puzzles to solve and obstacles to overcome. Really, they're not people. It always amuses me, and there's a very few times in my life when I've been in conversations with like people. Well, you obviously when you're out and about, and people talk about women as if they're this weird alien race, like they're always out trying to like trick us. They're always trying to trick us, like they all talk amongst themselves. And I thought they're just like us, really. They're just like us, but they look a bit different. It's not hard. Like, there doesn't need to be any study. It's just depressing that these people. But I do
require some effort.
I do enjoy the fact that I get to completely ostracize that side from my personal life. Because I think if I had to deal with it all the time, I think it would be quite choking, because it's so it's such the antithesis of how I am. So I'm just glad I don't have to put up with it in my daily life, and it's avoidable. But I do feel sorry. I feel sorry for you got these people, and when you get to a certain level of internet celebrity, you will do whatever you can to hold on to your followers, and it doesn't matter if it dovetails with your beliefs or not. You will say and do and be sponsored by whoever, as long as it gives you more. But I really think the people losing out here are the fans and the people who are just getting sucked into this vortex where they're like at home leading these like probably downtrodden lives, like wishing they were this person, this sort of glass idol, but not been able to move out of that. And then, of course, the algorithm will kick in, and then everything they see online will just be a reflection of it. So they're kind of trapped by their own desperation to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're probably, they're wishing they could not give a fuck in the same way as these people ostensibly do, because they do give a fuck. That's why they're watching them, to try and improve themselves or improve their situation. It is pretty horrendous situation.
Yeah. And there's no bow to tie on the end of it, is there? Like, even Louis Theroux doesn't really have any conclusions to draw. I mean, other than he invested money in one of their like schemes, and it dwindled down to next to nothing by the end, which kind of says it all in a way. But
do you think this is a bubble that will burst, or do you think it's just how it is for a certain sort of faction of people?
I think it will probably transform into something else, because I think I get the sense that it kind of goes through phases, because there was quite a big thing on the internet a few years ago with like pickup artistry, if you remember that. Like a lot of men explaining how to basically nail women, you know, with certain techniques and tricks. And then it kind of morphed into this, like, I guess, I don't know, is this red pill? I don't know. What is this? This is the next level, isn't it, really? We're sort of not even a disregard of women, but like a disrespect for women, and just treat them as objects to be won or whatever. So I don't know what the next phase is.
Just hope that kids get bored of these guys and move on to something else.
Must realize, I suppose maybe after like a generation of this nonsense, people realize actually my life hasn't changed, and this man is just living this bizarre life, and it has no, this is ridiculous.
Just a load of grifters, right?
Yeah, they're just a load of grifters, and the bubble will burst. But I just want to say to old and new listeners of the podcast that it's not usually like this. Usually we laugh and have fun and talk about like kung fu films. So I'm sorry about the last 20 minutes. I don't know where that came. I'll edit it out actually.
We've let ourselves down. Let's talk about. Somebody's got a gun in each hand.
Let's talk about The Fall Guy, Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt from 2024. Have either of you seen this?
Yes. Yeah. I think I saw it at the cinema.
I watched this film because I was hot off the press of War Machine, and I thought I kind of fancy another easygoing kind of actioner, and I do fancy a Ryan Gosling. And I thought, well, I'll chuck this on, won't I? And bearing in mind, I'll say this, right? Bearing in mind, I enjoyed The Grey Man, which I think only me and him enjoyed, because I just like looking at him. And I watched this, and I think I watched it. I think the way I watched it, it was the best for me, because basically I watched the first 45 minutes very tired, and I didn't realize it was a sort of remake of a 1980s film with Lee Majors. In fact, when him and Heather Thomas turned up at the end, I literally thought it was like Regis Philbin and Dolly Parton. I was like, who are they? But it turns out they're from the original thing. And I went into it, and it started off, and I thought, this feels very silly. So I guess most people know this, but the plot is that Ryan Gosling is a Hollywood stuntman, and he's sort of in the budding relationship with Emily Blunt, who is a cinematographer, I think, or camera woman, and cinematographer. I can't remember what she is at the start. Anyway, and he has a sort of career-threatening injury where he breaks his back, and he goes off the grid for reasons that are poorly explained, and then later on sentimental and tedious. And then he sort of gets dragged in by the producers saying, "Oh, she wants you back. She's directing this film called Metal Storm, Emily Blunt, and she wants you back." And he gets dragged into this conspiracy. And for the first 45 minutes, I thought, "Oh, this film is too silly for me. It feels too winky and fourth wall breaky, and I'm not really in the mood for it." And I was really tired. And after about 45, 50 minutes, I turned it off. And the next day, I hate stopping watching films halfway through, because I know I will never go back to them. I know I will never watch them from the start again. And if I put it on halfway through, I'll forget what's happened. So I said to Faye, let's just finish this. And she was like, yeah, I was enjoying it. We put it back on. And because my mind had sort of reset overnight and I clicked into the gear the film worked in, I did enjoy it a bit more. That said, I do feel like he is the best thing about it because of how he delivers his lines. He's got a certain comic timing that really resonates with me, as in like sort of, is it the nice guys or the other guys? I always get those mixed up. The nice guys. And I liked him in it. And I liked a couple of other actors, but it was a bit too. It felt. Do you know? My God, I have to catch myself. I was going to say it felt a bit sub Shane Black, but judging off his recent output over the last 15 years, I can't even say that anymore. It felt sub mid 2000s Shane Black, and I obviously a lot of the references to the original TV series went completely over my head, but I felt that the script needed tightening. The budget didn't need to be as big, and I did enjoy the fact that it was a bit of a celebration of stuntmen and the sort of the ending, the outtakes, and it does amaze me that stunt people don't have their own Oscar category because what they do is such highlights of movies. Like that's what you remember in action films. So I like that aspect of it. I just wish it was a slightly better film to back up what it was trying to push. That said, I did kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, it was a real mixed bag, wasn't
it? Yeah.
Totally, it didn't quite feel consistent, did it?
No.
I think if he hadn't been in it, who's the lady? Emily Blunt. If it didn't have top tier talent behind it, I think it would be very tiresome. But he kind of elevates it, doesn't he?
Yeah, as he does with everything. Usually my trousers.
My overriding feeling was I remember it felt very pleased with itself, and despite the action, there was no real tension to any of it because it was all sort of kind of played
so silly,
frivolous, wasn't it?
Yeah. Like when it got to the whole thing where he found that body in the bath, and then I thought, oh, he's getting dragged into a sort of neo-noir plot now, and then it goes bang the next day and it's sunshine and lots of like very meta conversations with him and Emily Blunt through megaphones, and I thought this scene's gone on for a while. There's a lot of this. It's like we know you like each other and you're pretending you don't in front of the crew, and very pleased with itself is a good way of putting it. And at no point did I think they were having more fun than I was, but I did think, I feel like the tone of this film is aimed at an audience that doesn't exist. It's sort of between like it's not frothy enough to be like a rom-com, and it's not heavy enough and interesting enough to be like an action film or a thriller. So you end up pleasing no one.
Yes, that's nail on the head there, isn't it? It's not romantically pleasing enough for people who want a romantic comedy, and the action is not enough weight or stakes to the action to win over action fans. So it sits in this like and like you say, the thriller aspect is kind of comes and goes. So it's trying to please too many things.
They probably imagine that it markets itself for that same reason, that like if you see a trailer for it auto playing on Netflix, whatever, you can chuck in a load of explosions, but you can also put in a whole romance aspect. So it's like, oh, there you go. Adult couples are inevitably going to watch this now. They can both leave dissatisfied.
I never really understood, because this is sort of slightly spoilerific, but when it's not really about the plot though, is it? When she says, why did you drop off the radar for a year? And yet, with a single phone call from the producer, he was back in and clearly like really loves her and wants to get involved. I thought, well, all you'd have to do is meet up once for this whole thing to be resolved. Like you're both in your 40s, or maybe they're supposed to be in their 30s in the film. And if you were like that in love with someone and they had like a life-changing injury, and you didn't make enough effort to even like visit them, and his reason at the end for when he sort of it was a scene that just did not resonate with me when he was on the speedboat and he's saying, "Oh, the reason I didn't meet up with you is because of this and this." I thought, that's crap. That's a crap reason, and it's like a childish reason. So it kind of lowered it even more in my estimations. It wasn't even like a reveal that there was an extra little layer to things. You thought, okay, fair enough. It was just more silliness and more childishness. So that was the worst aspect of it. It kind of felt like to me. I remember when I watched, and we talked about this a few months ago, when I watched Parker with Jason Statham, straight back to Donald E. Westlake. When we watched Parker, it's like I kept on thinking Jennifer Lopez doesn't need to be in this film, and she's making it worse. And it felt like that with Emily Blunt. Like it's like because of this whole aspect, it's just making the film more tedious.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Imagine you remember just one last thing before I forget because I've had a couple of glasses of wine. Sorry, Lazlo. If you imagine this film was written right, and she was a no one, and he broke his back, and it was him getting back into the saddle and getting dragged into this mystery, like it just would have been better.
Yeah,
if it hadn't had the romance aspect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It would have been shorter as well because I think it goes over 2 hours.
You mentioned that beach scene where they're shouting at each other through megaphones. I remember that going on and on and on. I was like, this is not funny enough to sustain this indulgence.
No. Yeah. Not at all. But Ryan Gosling I have not lost faith in him. I do really like his films, and I do like him.
Cost
his new one's supposed to be
$150 million to make, by the way.
Yeah, and it did not make its money back.
No, it did not.
The company who do the stunts for this is like a troupe, isn't it? And I want to say it's not A24. It's something similar to that. It's like a letter and a number. I did read something the other day that was moaning about they obviously like made their name with the John Wick films. So the director of this film was one of the directors of John Wick, the first one, the former stunt coordinator, now turned director.
Chad Stahelski or something. Stahelski.
So that's one of them. David Leitch is the one who did this and Deadpool 2 and Speed Train, Bullet Train,
right.
whatever.
Yes, Bullet Train. Yeah, right, okay.
But they have like that particular type of fighting action, and it feels like its bubble is ready to burst. And this article was saying the same thing. I was like, yeah, I can kind of see that. There's a similarity to this approach to action that they all take that is starting to get a bit repetitive. But anyway. We'll see.
Which final thing, I know it's your turn next, Lazlo, which is probably a good thing, because then when the bubble bursts, they'll be forced to lower the budgets and we'll probably end up watching better films.
Yep.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well,
150 million for this thing. Yeah, it's not worth. I mean, it's just silly money.
The final sequence just looks like trash, doesn't it?
And because it's Netflix, the whole thing kind of may as well be CG, which lessens. If it was a bit of a grittier film, because it's so sort of flashy and bright, you're like, well, at the end when they're showing the stunts, you thought, well, I just assumed they were CG because exactly, of how the tone of the film is. So it lessens its own impact.
Yeah, and they do that thing where they get the actors to do the thing, but in order to do that, they have to make the thing so insanely safe that they might as well not bother. So like when he's being dragged around in the bin thing on the road, they did, I think, for a large part for real. But it, like you say, it doesn't feel real because there's no sense of danger to it. It's like they've built a special custom trolley rack thing that he can sit in and fight in safely. And so then it doesn't feel dangerous. So it's kind of negates the point. Yeah. I want to feel like the stuntman could be killed at any moment.
Exactly.
That's the trick, isn't it? That is the trick. When you're watching like Jackie Chan stuff, you know, even if with Jackie Chan, even if he's jumping through a window, you want to be thinking, "Oh fuck," all the time. You don't want to be just thinking, "Is that CG?" I don't know. This costs like 200 million, so I don't know what I'm watching. Everything's so bright and clean.
Yeah. Shall I talk about something that's bright and clean and full of CGI action?
Oh, please, Lazlo, please.
Megan 2.0.
Okay.
This is the sequel to Megan. Or is it Megan with a 3 instead of an E? I think it makes sense. Meg M3 GAN 2.0. Alison Williams and Violet McGraw from the first film are back in this one as a kind of a mother and surrogate daughter. And Megan the robot is back. This one is, so it got criticized for this, where the first one is kind of a rip-off of Child's Play in a satirical horror kind of, murderous robot story. This goes into a sci-fi action comedy kind of direction. So it's, I would say, quite a bit tamer in terms of violence and leans much more into a robot dolls fighting each other. But I didn't really care for the original, so I don't really care that they've changed it, and I quite enjoyed this. I was surprised how enjoyable it was, considering it got pretty bum reviews. And it flopped badly and killed off an announced spin-off that they'd announced to us they were making this one. So I think that's now gone bye-bye. But anyway, this is just kind of a tight, with lots of action and sort of robot, like it's a mixture of stunts and puppetry fight scenes where the sort of robots can pull off impossible moves, where they sort of like they do a crab and then their torso will twist around and they can stand back up or right backwards, and it's definitely got its tongue firmly in its cheek. There's odd moments where I thought it was going to lean into schmaltz, like there was a bit where Megan is talking to the main woman about motherhood and the values that she's installed in her child, and I was like, and then Megan just then starts singing to her like this really corny pop song, and goes on and on and on to the point where she ends up like just telling her to shut the fuck up, and she's completely like ruined the moment, and it was quite genuinely funny. So yeah, it's not saying anything deep or clever or anything. It does have a little stab at offering some sort of commentary on AI at the end, like AI needs to be treated like a child and nurtured and things, but it's not really worth thinking too hard about. It's just a fun action comedy, really.
Do you have to watch the first one?
No. You just have to know that Megan was a murderous robot thing that they thought they destroyed at the end of the first one.
They always do.
Yeah. And there's some fun little bits, like the bad guy in this. There's an AI robot is the main sort of villain, but she's essentially a puppet kind of thing. There's a sort of tech bro bad guy, and his plans for world domination are constantly being hampered by like Zoom calls and just diary management issues and stuff. And he's like actively kind of a boring person. So that was kind of fun. I think it's heart and brain and sense of humor is all in the right place. It wasn't really a horror film, which I think is what people wanted.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by this because I haven't seen either of them, but I kind of feel like I want to watch them now because I wanted to watch them because of the like hatred thrown at the sequel. And I did wonder, is it just because it's different? It sounds like, yes, it's because it's different.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, if you just want to watch a fun action sci-fi comedy, it's like, I guess, what's that other film? Upgrade. It's like Upgrade, but with jokes and stuff.
Oh wow, okay.
And silliness. In terms of the action, it's got that kind of very fast, robotic-y kind of kinetic action, but then with stupid jokes and stuff thrown in all over the place. It kind of doesn't really give a shit.
And the Chucky comparison is interesting as well because, of course, the Child's Play series kept on reinventing itself and did become all-out comedy really after a while. I love them all, but it's utterly transformed over successive sequels. So it's got
this may have
previous
speed run to the end because this is pretty much just a comedy. But yeah.
Also,
I mean, the first one's worth a watch if you are interested. I mean, it's from memory, it's not enormously memorable, but it's like, as a child's play rip-off, it's kind of fun.
What channel
sorry,
are these on?
I watched this on Now TV. I'm not sure if the first one's on that.
Okey-doke.
If listeners do fancy diving into child's play action, I believe about 20 or 30 episodes ago, you'll be able to see on your podcast's platform of choice that Rupert did actually go through all of the child's play films in one day. Not in one day. You would not remember them, but yeah, in one episode.
Yep. All good.
So Rupert, what have you got?
I have another documentary I'll tell you about, which is this one produced by Louis Theroux, but made by someone else. And this one is called Tell Them You Love Me, which is on Now TV, and it chronicles an event that happened around 2009, 2012, involving someone called Anna Stubblefield and someone called Derek, otherwise known as DeMann. And DeMann has cerebral palsy. He is nonverbal and heavily physically disabled. And Anna is his therapist, who specializes in something called facilitated communication, where the idea is that you help the disabled person to express themselves by gently supporting their arm as they very slowly type out their thoughts and feelings. Facilitated communication is rejected by most professional bodies. And there's a guy in this documentary who does a double-blind test on facilitated communication. And basically, the way he tested it was he showed the facilitator one picture, and then he showed the disabled patient a different picture. So say a dog and a key. And then every single time, the patient would end up typing what the facilitator saw. So he completely debunked the whole thing. Anyway, so Anna, the therapist, and DeMann, this heavily disabled person with cerebral palsy, start having a sexual relationship. And he's typing things like, I'm so in love. This is over the moon. I've never imagined having this in my life and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so, and the scene where because she's just on camera, talking about this stuff, without any shame or anything. And the scene where she's describing their first sexual encounter is super creepy. She's giggling like a naughty teenager, not like someone who may be crossing the line in terms of client-patient responsibilities or any kind of power imbalance. And you got to think, how would her description of this sexual encounter be even more troubling if the gender roles were reversed? But okay, so the same guy who did that double-blind test and debunked the whole thing actually does an assessment on DeMann at one point at the police's request, and he finds out that DeMann has the intellectual capacity of a young infant, not even a toddler. He can tap the fridge because he's hungry, but he can't identify a picture of a fridge. That's the level he's at. So anyway, there is some counter argument in the documentary in the form of this older woman who's an advocate for facilitated communication, who is disabled herself. I mean, she has obvious mobility issues and her speech is slow and difficult to understand, but she's clearly it's just a purely physical condition she's suffering. She can literally speak intelligent, insightful sentences with her voice, albeit awkwardly, so it's not really much of a counter-argument. Anna Stubblefield herself, this therapist, is of the perspective that disabled people are simply made to feel out of place because the world is set up for able people. So there's also this interesting class element, which is sort of also a racial element, because Anna is a white middle class expert, and she has all these assumptions about the inherent deficiency of Derek's mother, because Derek is black, and Anna's outlook on disability is sort of laudable on paper, although hardly in touch with reality, I would say. And regardless, it's clearly obvious she's crossing a line. And her fundamental premise is that there's zero difference between mentally disabled people and so-called normal people in terms of capacity. Because for her, it's just a mere matter of like access to sufficient communication methods. Other than that, there's no difference. It's bonkers. But it is a really fascinating documentary, not least because the perpetrator is still absolutely convinced of her own innocence and making out like it's a genuine love story. It's very weird. Pretty cool though.
That double blind test for me is all I need to know, because it's that's that proven. So let's assume that's fact and move on. Yeah, that just sounds really creepy.
It's so creepy. It's her, like her kind of like ongoing like joy and absolute like denial that even that anything could be perceived as wrong in their relationship. Like she really thinks that she's the one who's hard done by here, because there's this whole legal case as well. But like you'd think that someone would at least say something along the lines of, "Yeah, I can see what it looks like." But no, it's like she's just absolutely sitting there with a grin on her face, saying, "Yeah, we absolutely loved each other.
Does she
definitely nothing to do with me and my creepy kinks?"
Yeah, I was going to say, because someone who's got the mental age of someone, the physical age of someone, like of an infant, not even like a teen. But does she seem like
she's married with children, by the way, as well? So she's cheating on her husband as well.
Does she seem like she may have some magic in the air herself?
Not really. No, she has a kind of like psychotic stare, but not like she's in any way mentally deficient. Certainly not, because she communicates very well and comes across in a kind of empathic, like an empathic therapeutic professional. But I don't know, probably put you off therapy for life, to be honest, watching this.
I guess you get people who just project onto things. I mean, like, this isn't really a comparison, but like people who have pets and my other half was watching a video of a woman who had like a pet shrimp thing, and it had a name, and she would talk. It was like on TikTok or whatever, and she would like impose this whole personality on this shrimp that basically like hid in a cave and came out and grabbed the odd bit of food. But she said, "Oh, look, he wants to play. He's in a really playful mood today." And like, is he though? Like, it's a shrimp, and he just wants to eat. That's probably about as complicated as its brain gets.
Yeah, it's like imposing a whole character personality and imposing a whole alternate reality onto someone or something.
Yeah.
In our previous flat,
living out some sort of weird desire because you can, because it's almost like you're faced with a blank slate. Let's create a character for you in my life to make it more exciting or something. I don't know. It's
a fantasy world, isn't it? Because in our previous flat, we had a lizard called Dexter, and he basically just sat there and looked out, and occasionally at crickets, and like he passed away, bless him. But the last, I think I might have mentioned this in an earlier episode of the podcast. The last night I spent with him, I was drunk watching the first Deadpool film, and at the end of it, I think it plays "Careless Whisper" at the end of the film over the credits. "Careless Whisper" by George Michael, and I was dancing in my boxers with a glass of wine, like singing at Dexter, and he was just staring at me unblinkingly, and it was like, and then in the morning that night, maybe it was the sight of me in my boxers that finished him off, to be honest. But in the morning, I came in and he'd gone, bless him, and I like to think, oh well, at least I have that like really funny last memory. But what I didn't do was sexually abuse him. And also what I didn't do is like think that he was enjoying, like, there's a line, isn't it, between having fun and your pets and having a chat with them and treating them like people and talking to them, which I can understand with dogs and cats. People, it's a way of having company and a way of sort of verbalizing
kind
your
of
thoughts.
Anthropomorphizing.
Yeah. But I think there's a certain limit to that most people should understand.
I think the limit is when it's a human being, possibly.
Yeah, I think that could be it.
Yeah. And at least like a pet can probably bite you or scratch you if it doesn't approve.
Right.
Yeah.
When you these last two films you watched, Rupert, these last two documentaries, when you turned them off, did you shuffle up to your wife and say, "So are you in the mood, darling?" or like, why did you watch something nice? Why didn't you just watch silly stuff like we do?
Yeah. Why do you watch something with guns and tits in, Rupert?
I did watch two ostensibly fun films afterwards, which I'll get to.
Sorry, let me just write ostensibly fun as a possible episode title. That's how we do things around here. We see what crops up during the podcast. Okay, I will move on to a film I watched then called Hitman the Cobra, which is directed by Godfrey Ho. So I'm going to bring things up a little bit.
The title like that.
Yeah. So it's about someone caring after a disabled. No, it's not. What it's about is about Richard Harrison. This is one of the films where Richard Harrison thought he was going to be in one film, and Godfrey Ho spliced up his scenes into 24 separate films, which completely broke his career. So the film starts off, and it's two films spliced together. Oh, Godfrey, you devil! The first film, I see the first film. The first 8 minutes of footage is Richard Harrison running up a hill, and it's repeated footage of him running up a hill I recognize from previous Godfrey Ho films, almost like they were all filmed on the same day, chasing a man, and they get to the top, and he shoots him dead. Then it cuts to another man who looks like actually, if you go to IMDb and type in Hitman the Cobra, when you play along at home, kids. So if you type in Hitman the Cobra on IMDb, and you'll see the picture is Richard Harrison in military fatigues wielding a gun. Let me know when you've got to that part.
Yeah.
I'll have a sip, right? So if you look down, there should be 4 pictures at the bottom. So the first picture is Richard Harrison holding a gun. The second one is what looks like Steve Zahn if he were homeless in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? That man is Al Cliver levels of bad acting. Because when Richard Harrison shoots this guy dead, it instantly hard cuts to this guy, Steve Zahn lookalike, sitting on a rock, and he speaks to his gathered army, 2 men, and says, "Oh no, I can't believe that my brother was shot and killed. I will never stop until I avenge him." And it is literally like that. It's like he's never heard the English language before, and he's looking at cue cards. And then don't worry, because we don't see him again until the end of the film, because then it cuts into the actual main film is, which is a Taiwanese film where it's I guess it's like supposed to. They never explicitly say who this country is, but I guess it's like Taiwan fighting against invading Japanese forces, and it's this guy called Jeff or something who is got a small group of people together in this sort of ragtag town, and he's like, right, we're going to take down the invading Japanese army. And then it cuts to footage which is mostly pitch black, I'm not going to lie to you, of him fighting this army and blah, blah, blah. And at the end, I say at the end, after a few minutes, really, it cuts to him with his 5 blokes, and they're running around these earthen huts made of straw on this sort of open, derelict ground. And these buildings are clearly empty. There's no windows. There's just straw, and you can look in them and see that they're just empty straw, sort of temporary buildings. There's actors falling over and basically dropping their guns and missing cues. And then he eventually blows these 4 earthen straw huts up. And then it cuts to him sort of burying his guns, and he turns around to his wife and says, well, that's the Japanese army sorted then. We won. And I thought, oh my God, I thought that was just like an outpost. No, that was the army, was it? Okay, well, fair enough, that's sorted. And then he gets not kidnapped, he gets taken in by the government, him and his mate. And what happens then is possibly, and I'm not going to do it justice here, is the funniest moment in cinema history. So you've got this evil captain, and he's in this sort of prison cell, and he's got his gun and he's beating them up. This Jeff and his mate, and he's saying, "Tell us what we want to know. Tell us." And the guy, "Oh, I'm not going to tell you anything." And he beats him up, and then he turns to his friend and says, "I'm going to blow your brains out if you don't tell me what's up. Tell me everything. Tell me what's happening." And tell me, and he's not saying like where the rebels are. That's right. He's like, "Tell me where the rebels are. Tell me everything." And the guy refuses, and then he walks to the front of the camera and he sort of looks off into the distance and he says, "Harry." And one of his sort of lieutenants comes up and says, "Sir," and he says, "What's happening?" And my brother laughed at a pitch I've never heard in my entire life, because I said to the screen, "You are the instigator of this scene. You." And he says, "Harry, what's happening?" And the man just repeats what we've seen. He says, "Well, we need to know where the rebels are. You've tortured them. They're not giving anything up, and we need to find out where they are." And he goes, "I see," as if he's just walked into the scene and not been the instigator of it and done it was brilliant. We watched it about 10 times. I wish I'd filmed it. Unfortunately, then it's like it's a bit downhill from there. You can't top that, can you? A bloke with a tea cozy turns up, generally a tea cozy on his head, turns up and starts giving orders to people we've never seen before. It cuts back at one point to Richard Harrison on that little island, shooting an Uzi at someone, a single bullet at a time, which I've never seen before. There's just minutes of like most blackness of people like wandering around huts and supposedly blowing up outposts. There's a scene where he sort of methodically, one of the Jeff buries his guns in a sort of, the war's over, but then we never see him dig them up again and like sort of take up arms again. He's got a daughter at the start that is screaming for him when he's taken off to war, but we just never see again. There's a point where the captain, who says, "What's happening?" Says to his men, "I need you to search for this man in Santa Cruz and Los Altos," right? Which, I don't know if you know this, I looked it up, are both cities in California, right? And as he's saying this, he's got like a wand and he's pointing at a map of the world. And as he's saying it, he's pointing at 2 different countries on a map. And I thought, wow. Right, oh my God. And the film ends where Richard Harrison meets that Steve Zahn lookalike, and they have this really clumsy, boring fight where they're just shooting at each other and missing, constantly missing. And then Richard Harrison just ducks behind sort of a knee-high wall and just haphazardly throws a grenade over his head, and it just kills the other guy. And then, boom, it's the credits. Absolute gold. But that scene where he says, "What's happening?" will live with me forever, and I will never be able to do it justice. So if people want to watch it, it's on YouTube. It's called Hitman the Cobra. There's no Hitman in the film. No one ever mentions a cobra. It's probably the title of another Godfrey Ho film that he got mixed up somewhere along the way. But it was worth it just for you could probably turn it off after the first 15 minutes, because I think you've seen the real gold of the film by then. Absolute brilliance.
Did they splice in any sort of action from some heroic bloodshed film and then just like steal it wholesale, or is that?
Well, it's just 2 films. Well, I say 2 films. It's this Taiwanese film about this guy taking down the Japanese army, and then it's Richard Harrison literally at the start for 4 minutes, in the middle for about 3 minutes, and at the end for about 6 minutes. So there's no interaction at all between them. It just cuts between these 2 plots, and they're both just as dreadful as each other. What's happening? So yeah, absolute gold worth of that scene alone.
Richard Harrison, I just counted, he was between 1985 and 1989, he was in 34 films.
But
most of
were
those
they
were
all Godfrey Ho?
They do sound like Godfrey Ho films, because you've got stuff like Ninja the Protector, Ninja Champion, Ninja Thunderbolt,
yes,
Ninja Squad, Golden Ninja Warrior, Ninja Kill.
Yeah, they're all Godfrey.
Ninja Operation, License to Terminate. Evil Spawn, Hitman Cobra, Ninja Silent Assassin, Ninja Commandments, Ninja Avengers, Cobra vs. Ninja, The Ninja Showdown, Ninja Power Force, Ninja The Bootlace Philosophy, Diamond Ninja Force, Hands of Death, Dark Mission, The Power of Ninjutsu, Scorpion Thunderbolt,
I think
Ninja Strike
without
Force.
checking, we can all agree these are Godfrey Ho films.
They just sound
Golden
like
Ninja
it.
Warrior is because we watched the trailer for that on the DVD before we watched the film, and it's just constant scenes. You know, it's basically just any scene, and the camera will just zoom in like really hard on someone, and it was a voiceover going "Golden Ninja Warrior, Golden Ninja Warrior," and he kept on saying it. We watched the film, and at no point does no one mention a Golden Ninja Warrior. Then after it, we happened to watch Ninja Terminator, and in that film, the whole sort of MacGuffin is this Golden Ninja Warrior statue, and I thought he's got the titles mixed up. He's literally got the titles mixed up, and in the trailers. But yeah,
Ninja Holocaust as well. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I would keep watching them because there's nothing like them. But yeah, this is good for the first 15 minutes. What's happening? What a fucking scene that was! What a scene.
I have a little bit of insight on what might have been going on with that single shot Uzi, because I remember watching a making of El Mariachi with Robert Rodriguez.
The first of the Desperado. Yeah.
And obviously that was made for pennies, and the guns that they had were so like shit, and they didn't have like the correct ammunition for them, so they always jammed after one shot. So in that film, there's no scene, like even though they're firing machine guns at each other loads, you never see a gun like have more than one muzzle flash before they cut to something else, because the guns jammed after every single shot that they fired. So maybe they just leaned into that.
It's funny you should talk about guns, because after we watched Hitman the Cobra and before we watched the next film, which we'll talk about later, there was I said I have to see what Godfrey Ho looks like. I've only seen him do a cameo in his own film, and it was an interview with him from like 2018 or something in some Chinese skyscraper, and he's been interviewed by a German, I assume a German YouTuber or whatever. And it's just asking him about a film. I've forgotten the name of the film now. It's called like Leopard Pouncer or something that me and my brother are very much going to watch next, because he talks about it like it's his best film back from 1990. And they say, what was the difference? You know, you made a couple of films in America, but most of your films are filmed in the Philippines. What was the reasoning for that? And he said, in America, you know, if you want to blow something up or have a car chase, or you want to get some guns in or set something on fire, you got to have the police there, you got to have the permits, you got to have the fire department there. So we can't film the fire department on here. He's like, oh, for God's sake. He said, there's none of that in the Philippines. We turned up in the Philippines, $500, they gave us a load of guns and said, go in the woods, do what the fuck you want. And I thought, yeah, that seems about right, actually, doesn't it? And I assume like that's why everyone films in the Philippines. So they give the government a couple of grand and they just say, we don't care what you do, to be honest, as long as you don't knock anything over. Because, yeah, it does make sense now that I've heard him say it out of his own. He's so brazen about like his thefts. He doesn't care. And he just looks like a retired accountant as well, which like adds to the charm. And this bit's really like, oh, so what made you cast, I don't know, like Lauren McGoffrey in this film? He's like, oh, well, you know, she said she'd get her tits out and she looked good in a thong. He doesn't care. Doesn't care, that man. And then explains his movies.
It's one of a kind.
And I will continue to delve into that kind. So what's coming from you, Lazlo?
Have you kept track of which ones you have watched, like in a list, so you can do the whole lot?
I would do it. I genuinely love his films. We watch 2 or 3 at a time. I bizarrely can remember the ones we've seen from the title, but we haven't made a list. But I will get there.
I suppose you've got them on the shelf, or unless you're watching them on YouTube. Never mind.
You can usually tell because when it kicks off, if it's Richard Harrison on a Garfield phone, you're like, I've seen this before.
It's called Ninja something, or something Ninja.
Ninja Garfield.
Yeah, classic.
I watched Luc Besson's Dracula film, which is.
I started watching that. Didn't make it.
That's telling. It does get off to a rocky start. So this is Luc Besson's new Dracula film, which has just popped up on Prime. Came out I think it got a limited cinema release last year, starring Caleb Landry Jones as Dracula and Christopher Waltz as himself yet again. And it's quite a lavish and but stunningly unoriginal take on the Dracula story. It's probably better if you've never seen Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula or Nosferatu or any previous Dracula film. As Rupert mentioned, it gets off to a very wobbly start. There's like the opening scene is a montage of Dracula, pre-Dracula times, whatever, Vlad bonking his girlfriend. And I think it's meant to sort of show how in love they are or whatever, but it comes off as like a weird, horny, juvenile teenagers, and they're having pillow fights and food fights, and it leads into a clumsily staged battle scene, where I was just watching it going, what? There's like, they're on a big hill, and there's the enemies at the top of the hill, so they've got the high ground, and he's waiting at the bottom, and the enemy charge down the hill at them, and then they've got these barrels, and they smash them open, and they're full of petrol or something, and they pour it out on the ground and set fire to it, but the petrol's pouring downhill, so it's all around their own feet, and then they have to run through their own wall of fire to attack this army, and I'm like, I don't know what strategy that was, but it was ridiculous. And I was watching it thinking, they've obviously spent some money on this, but this looks shit and it's really shonky, and I was not feeling it at all. But then after that, his girlfriend gets killed, and he damns God, and God damns him back, and he becomes Dracula, and then it jumps forward for like 400 years or something. And it then sort of falls into the story that everyone has seen a million times before, and it's okay. Like it's quite slick once it's got past that opening, and it kind of hits the usual beats. It's got, the lawyer who visits Dracula and doesn't seem to notice that he's moving stuff with his mind, and the place is like a rotten hellhole, and he looks like a shriveled corpse walking around. And then it got Mina, isn't it? And she's basically a reincarnation of his love from 400 years prior. It's got the psychiatric doctor who teams up with a vampire hunter killing priest, and all of that stuff. It just goes through the motions, but does a decent job of presenting it. It's nicely shot, and they've obviously spent a lot of money on the sets and things. And the acting on the whole is decent. Like the guy playing Dracula is surprisingly willing to let himself look like gross and sweaty and bloody and drooling all the time.
Caleb Landry Jones is not a typical leading romantic lead, I suppose, but he is kind of decrepit in this.
He come from the sort of Norman Reedus school of acting, where it's just this greasy rat bastard,
Yeah, it's like he's constantly drooling. He's always got kind of wet on either side of his mouth. It's a bit weird. But yes, unconventional, but then they sort of spruce him up enough in scenes where you go, okay, well, he's kind of dashing there, but it's in between bouts of him looking disgusting. There is a sequence that went on and on where he's telling a story as the shriveled old Dracula-looking guy, and he's putting on a gravelly voice, but providing narration. And it really started to grate on my nerves. And I was like, please, this cannot last like this. But luckily, then he drinks some blood and turns young again, and he stops doing that. So that was a relief. But yeah, I don't know. It feels expensive, and but there's but possibly again needlessly expensive. There's an army of gargoyles, CG gargoyles that he has as his minions. And they just don't need to be in it. They're not scary, and they're obviously very expensive. But they could have just done away with that, and it would have actually probably been much better just have him as the main threat, But yeah, I don't know. I did enjoy the watch ultimately. And it's not
Should
adding
I continue
anything
watching
new.
it then?
Sorry?
Should I continue watching it?
If you're interested, it's like a slicker remake of Coppola's film without the woeful acting, but without any of the handcraft love of that film. So it's very much
it
a
didn't
mixed
seem to have
bag.
the atmosphere either, really, did it? Well, as far as I could tell.
No, it definitely doesn't have that.
I don't know. It's weird. It was a TikTok sensation, this movie. That's how I knew about it.
It means nothing. That means nothing.
Yeah, what did it do on TikTok?
Because there were loads of clips floating around in it, and it got female audiences very excited for this movie. So it was. I don't think it was like a cinematic hit, but I think it was very sought after on streaming services.
Wow.
So I don't know. It was. Well, when my wife watched it, because she really wanted to watch it because it was all over TikTok, and then she watched it and she was like, it wasn't that good actually because I've seen most of it on TikTok.
Yeah, well, it would probably save you quite, a couple of hours if you watched just the best bits on TikTok, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's the answer. It's watching mediocre films. More on which later.
So yeah, mixed bag. If you haven't watched Francis Ford Coppola one or Nosferatu, then you'll probably get more out of it because at least then it won't feel like a familiar retread.
Luc Besson is a weird one, isn't he? Because in my head, I've always thought there was a point, and I was trying to work out what it was. Like years ago, when I was in my 20s, I thought, I like Luc Besson films, and I've been looking at his list now, and he's someone who doesn't really crop up in the podcast that often, really. But when we made Leon and the Fifth Element, and I really liked the Fifth Element, and I enjoyed Leon, and then I was scrolling down, I thought, oh God, I haven't seen any of these films apart from those two, and then I saw Lucy from 2014, and I hated it. And I remember thinking, that film was like a proper load of bollocks. And so that was 12 years ago, and that's when I thought, no, I think I just like those two films, not the fact that he's a director. And this just kind of cements that for me. And I think I basically only like Leon and the Fifth Element. And I reckon if I watch Leon again, I might see something that I don't enjoy in it now.
If you watch the director's cut, you can see a 12-year-old girl trying to seduce a 35-year-old man.
Yeah, but that 35-year-old man's Brad Pitt, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh no, it's Jean Reno who looks perennially 50. I remember now.
I was going to say, is he only 35 in Leon? Bloody hell!
I think he probably is about that.
He's got a fantastic voice. Jean Reno has got one of the best voices in cinema, but not one of the best.
Yeah, I like him. He's very cool.
He was great in. Oh my God, what was that film that was around at the same time as Heat and had Robert De Niro in it and Tasha McElhenney? Or McElhound, sorry. No. It's like a short, short forward.
Ronin?
Ronin, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yes. I really like that film. Got Sean Bean in it, of course. So yeah, I'm probably not going to watch it. To be honest, I need to watch the Nosferatu, but the fact this was brought out the same year as Nosferatu, I can see why it got swept under the carpet somewhat.
No, he was actually mid-40s. So he was mid-40s being seduced by a 12-year-old.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
He's had some accusations against him IRL as well, hasn't he?
Luc Besson, yeah. He's been accused of rape and sexual misbehaviour.
Yeah. So fuck them. Fuck him. Don't watch this film.
Okay.
Is it me now? Sorry.
I think it's me.
I thought that was yours. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
No. I'll talk about... do you want to talk about... Well, I've got two left. Do I talk about The Last Starfighter or Superman next?
I feel like you've talked about The Last Starfighter before.
Possibly.
Which Superman?
I do want to talk about Superman, the latest one, because I know Lazlo's seen it.
Do it. Let it happen.
This is on Now TV. And I suppose this came out last year. I guess it was intended as a great resurrection of DC with its new program head, James Gunn. And it also kind of became the de facto litmus test for mainstream audiences to understand their appetite for comic movies in general. Because I guess if Superman doesn't pull in the crowds, what will? I'm going to read out the Wikipedia synopsis because I can't really fathom the plot. Superman faces unintended consequences after he intervenes in an international conflict orchestrated by billionaire Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult. Superman must win back public support with the help of his reporter and superhero colleagues. So there's a whole conceit about
one of the plots.
Superheroes being it doesn't even tell half the story. The whole conceit about superheroes being distrusted by society already been done better in two Incredibles movies, but this is James Gunn, and he's a fresh voice, yeah, right? But he's not really, is he? Because his comedy style is basically indistinguishable from Joss Whedon, really. And this film has some tonal shifts in it. Like, it's virtually a comedy in its tiresome irreverence, but then there's also a scene where Superman is blackmailed when like this random acquaintance is just shot in the head in front of him. You got Lois Lane. I can't remember who plays her, but who's 1 minute she's like the most confident and competent journalist in the world, and the next she's just a stuttering schoolgirl. And then there's a scene where she's watching Mr. Terrific, I think his name is, like kick ass, beating up loads of people with an ironic, jaunty pop song, of course. And she's absolutely in awe of it. It's like, whoa, what is happening? This is amazing. But it's like, why is she responding that way? Because she's literally dating Superman himself. And earlier, they'd had this lovers' chat while a huge glowing space alien was being attacked over the city in the background. So it's like, why would you be like stunned by this fight scene? And then you got Nicholas Hoult as Lex, who's just completely unthreatening and miscast. And Lex Luthor is someone who can literally create an alternate universe and control the world's most powerful governments, yet cannot tell that Superman is Clark Kent without glasses.
They do explain that in a rather silly way.
Did they?
I think he's. Okay. They said there's a bit where he says the glasses like there's technology in the glasses, so it tricks people into not seeing his face is the same or some shit.
Right. Yeah.
Not that I'm giving this film any credit, but they did have a stab at that.
But the element that kind of confused me, maybe this is explained as well, but Lex Luthor openly admits that his whole beef with Superman is entirely personal and based on envy. Fine. But it doesn't explain like Lex Luthor's like huge entourage, his staff, because the team around him are absolutely committed to the same task as him for some reason, like taking down Superman, regardless of how amoral or globally precarious their actions might be. And then, so you got this whole, middle section, which is set in this pocket universe, which is really tiresome. The pocket universe escape scene is one of the most incomprehensible action scenes I think I've ever witnessed. This is where like Superman is being dragged through a river of plasma while holding an alien baby, whilst fighting like a stormtrooper, while a floating head with tentacles flies behind him. And then that brings us to the overuse of the dog. He's got a dog called Crypto or something. So, which is just like, it's like a pocket Deus Ex Machina thing. It basically, the dog constantly saves Superman every time. It's bizarre. And David Corenswet as Superman and Clark Kent is fine. He does his best. But kind of like Henry Cavill before him, his greatest nemesis is the script, unfortunately. And Superman spends like 90% of this movie getting his ass kicked and either in recovery or moping around like a schoolboy told off by his parents. And then I think this film was quite overpraised by critics. And some of them seem to mention that you don't need to have done any homework like you do in a lot of comic book movies. Yep, there I was, without a clue who these meta-humans are or where they came from, and for a good while unable to distinguish them from like Lex Luthor's goons. And And then you got the whole backdrop of this heavily armed country invading a bunch of peasants with sticks, which is really simplistic and on the nose. Frankly, a little bit uncomfortable and borderline tasteless given the events in Middle East since October 2023. And yeah, I just felt like this movie made me feel old. Like maybe I don't get it. Maybe if you're a real DC aficionado, then you'll get the references and the massive array of side characters and that stupid dog. But I think rather than being the savior of comic book movies, it felt like the death knell to me.
Just wait until you see Supergirl, because the trailers for that. Oh my word!
Well, she has a cameo in this, doesn't she? And it's like, oh god, really? Do we want to watch this drunken teenager stumbling around the place?
I know this has been like compared to like Saturday morning cartoons and things, and I kind of get that. But then there's so much stuff in this, like you said, the guy who gets shot in the head, this bit with prostitutes and stuff, and you're thinking this isn't really something you could stick on for the kids on a Saturday morning either. And it's got a violence to it it's a weird old film, and it's not the home run that I think they needed.
No, and I think it's not enough, because I can see what they're trying to do, like by kind of turning the tables on the kind of dark Man of Steel version of Superman, which did Henry Cavill such a disservice. But it's not enough just to make it bright and kind of positive, I guess, because the earnestness of Superman, you can't have him be kind of quipping and ironic and irreverent. It's like it kind of takes away from that earnest purity thing. As long as he's coming up with one-liners or kind of using, I don't know, like contemporaneous, like, I don't know, like terms in, kind of jargon and lingo. I don't know. He doesn't feel like an alien. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like an alien. He's pure of heart. He just...
Yeah. What it does...
comes across a bit of an angry teenager.
With all the other super people in this, all it does, and it feeds into what you're saying there, is it de-super powers him. Like, he is just one other guy amongst a world of superhero people and aliens. So there's nothing very special about him, and you end up wondering why the story is about, why he's the focus of this story, because he gets his ass handed to him all the time, and he's just kind of ridiculous. An average Joe. So it's not like his values are a paragon either.
It's not even as if the film itself is strange. It's more like it was just strange. There are strange decisions behind it.
Sorry,
I'm just going to say, I'm not no real interest in this, but I just was reading about this. You were chatting, and it says he gets beaten at the start by someone called the Hammer of Baravia, and I just wondered, like, and at the end, I'm assuming he bests him. But is that interesting? At least,
no. There's a twist, revelation about who that is, and which I won't spoil, but it feels like something that should have been parked for the next one or the third one or something. It's just like another layer of it's a physical opposition for him that you didn't need, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm probably never going to watch this film, I don't think.
It's for the best.
Are they making another one with the same cast? Or?
Yeah. Man of Tomorrow.
I mean, who knows what's going to happen, because Warner Brothers have now been bought out or are being bought out by Paramount.
That's
James Gunn may not be in charge of DC Studios in time.
I don't know. I think
they are making another one. I think, but I don't know. They could pull the plug, I guess. It's probably not
part of it might depend on Supergirl as well.
Yeah,
I don't even know when this is coming out.
That's going to flop. I can't see a world where that's a hit because, again, I don't know who it's aimed at. It's another weird one.
Go on.
Whose go is it?
I was just going to really quickly talk about. Do you want to squeeze another one after me, Lazlo, before we move on to the Arkansas? Sure. I watched Midnight Heat, also called Blackout, which was on Amazon Prime, starring Brian Bosworth. I'll do this really quickly. It's a TV movie, unfortunately. He plays someone called John Gray, who's a banker. Like, you know, Brian Bosworth in the other films we've seen, right? He's not a banker, is he? He's an ex-NFL player, and he's this really. He starts off for the first 30 seconds of the film, this real, like, sort of goofy sort of character. He gets hit by a car, clocks his head, wakes up in hospital, doesn't recognize his wife, has no idea what, like total amnesia, like he's a blank slate. And he has these visions of, he lives in a palatial house, and he has visions of this past life where Brad Dourif is stabbing him in the hand and rubbing blood on a tattoo on his arm he's since had removed. And his wife's like, "You're a banker, as far as I know. You were in the Navy, now you're a banker." And it's quite funny actually, because he's in the bank and he keeps on thinking about this phone number, and he's genuinely like this sort of childlike blank slate, like, oh, I don't really know what's going on, I just want to know more about my past. And he rings this number, and it's like a bar in LA, and the guy answers the phone. When he recognizes his voice, he's like, "You're dead, Gray, you're dead, Garrett." And he slams the phone. I'm like, "Oh, fucking hell, that escalated," and that tickled me. And but he's, instead of just thinking, "Oh, do you know what? I'm probably best off just, like, as his memory comes back, just staying with my wife, and this is much safer. I obviously had a dodgy past." He keeps digging into it. So his wife gets killed. He doesn't care. She gets killed. He's like, whatevs. And then he decides to dig further into his past. Ends up saving a woman from like a bar fight, and then she decides to just help him out. And even though she's a cocktail waitress, she lives in like a penthouse apartment with a pool table in it, and it's massive. And she's like, "Oh, I'm just a cocktail waitress." And it's like, is it though? Would you be able to afford that in LA on a cocktail waitress's salary? And it's just him getting back into, he used to be a biker and he did all this stuff, got this tattoo, and he was in prison, all this stuff. And then, I forgot to mention, the way the prison break at the start, so there's a character called Scar who sort of is the main henchman later on in the film. We see this prison break. The way Brad Dourif and his gang break him out of this is they wait at a sort of a curve on a mountain road, and they just open fire on this prison bus, like with shotguns, and tear it to shreds. And then it just explodes. Like, the glass blows out, it completely explodes, gutting it. And when they get on, everyone's fine, lying on the floor. And I thought, that's not the most it's not the most pinpoint plan you had, is it? Anyway, later on in the film, it's just him sort of showdown with the henchman and Brad Dourif, and it's really by the numbers. And too much of the middle of the film is filled up with this sort of like banter with him and this cocktail waitress going around finding tidbits about the his past, and it just basically it's like, get on with it. Let's make this 90 minutes. At the end of the film, you realize, well, you've killed lots of people. Your wife is dead. And you've taken on this biker gang now. So how are you going to get out of this? And luckily, Deus Ex Machina, a man gets out of a helicopter and says, "Oh, I'm the head of the FBI, and you're actually never a criminal. You were actually undercover for us this whole time. So that means now the film can end nicely because you didn't know what you were doing, and even if you did bad things, you're on the good side." So I'm gonna have to go back to One Tough Bastard, I think, for a good Brian Bosworth film.
That sounds like the ending of that Michael Biehn. No, was it Michael Biehn? One
Time
where
Bomb?
like. No, I did enjoy that, but no, it was one we watched on the last getaway, and he's like, "Oh no, it's with Robert Patrick," and he's like, he's gone around like a vigilante, murdering hundreds of people, and then at the end, they just welcome him back into the FBI or whatever. It's like he gets a happy ending. You're like, hang on. Like, he murdered hundreds of people as a vigilante. You were trying to arrest him throughout the whole film.
Is that the one where he's got a shotgun which fires like mini nukes?
It's like every time they shoot, a car explodes. I just remember that.
It's ridiculous. It's like the gun out of RoboCop, the rail gun.
Yeah.
Let's not. Is that the one with Titus
that was a good
Welliver,
film.
Zero Tolerance?
Yes, Zero Tolerance. Yes.
Yes.
And Mick Fleetwood, obviously. Yeah, Zero Tolerance. That was the one. Yeah, brilliant.
I quite enjoyed that.
So, Lazlo, do you want to squeeze in a final one?
Yeah, because I've got so many. I'm tempted to do like just a 2-minute trashy thing, but I do want to get I Swear out of the way. Well, okay. In terms of, I'm going to thrash through 2 really quick ones. I watched Beetlejuice, and I can barely remember it. But we've covered it before, so it doesn't really matter. I just remember they really squandered. What's that beautiful Italian woman called?
Monica Bellucci.
What's her name?
Monica Bellucci.
Monica
Bellucci. I don't know why she's in this film. Is she?
I don't know why
going out with
she's
Tim
married
Burton?
to Tim Burton.
There we go.
Yeah.
Bizarre, pointless.
I think overall I think it's a good film.
Yeah. Okay.
I do think so. I think it's better than the first one.
Really?
Well, actually, I think I was in the first one longer than Michael Keaton was.
Yeah, it is amazing watching it back. It's like an hour in, and it's like, where is Beetlejuice?
Good point. I have weird rose-tinted glasses, I think, for the original, just because I saw it when I was young enough to be mind blown about how weird it was. Anyway,
it's still a very cool film. I just think, yeah.
I also watched,
and of course, yeah. Go on.
I was going to say I also watched the live-action version of How to Train Your Dragon, which I quite enjoyed. I've not seen the animated one, so I don't care if it's very derivative. That it's the same writer and director, so I imagine it's pretty much the same. But as
the trailer was shot for shot, yeah,
right. And at the beginning, like, it was heavily CGI, sort of just landscapes, and I was just like, can you not just go to an actual place and fucking film it? But anyway, I got past that pretty quickly, and I just thought it was a fun, engaging kind of romp with dinosaurs, dragons, and kids and stuff. It was fun. Recommend it for
the animated trilogy
kids.
Is brilliant.
Yeah,
the animated trilogy is so good, and it gets better as it goes through.
Right.
Oh, that's nice to know.
I just it seems pointless, this so-called live action
trend, quite frankly, that's going on. I don't know why they're doing it,
but it made me watch it, whereas I probably would have carried on skipping the animated ones, because I know it's a personality flaw, but I just have a disconnect of interest with animation films over live action film.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, if he can do shot for shot of the whole trilogy, then I guess it'll be just as good.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the same guy and stuff doing writing and directing, then hopefully it captures the magic. I enjoyed it, so I guess that's
I can't remember his name, but the guy who directed and I possibly wrote the animated trilogy, his enthusiasm for this particular IP is quite infectious, and so I can't really blame him. He's been thrown $100 million or whatever to make the live action one and make it identical to the animated movie. I can't really blame him.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, I get to do it all again.
Is it Dean DeBlois? I don't know how you pronounce it. DeBlois.
Yeah.
All right. Can I just quickly then review the film that I just want to get it off my slate, which is I Swear.
Absolutely.
Which you guys may have heard of if you haven't seen.
I Swear.
This is the one about the guy with Tourette's. Recently, unfortunately, caused a stir at the BAFTAs.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay.
So I saw this on Netflix. This is a true story about a guy called John Davidson, who is a Scotsman with Tourette syndrome. I didn't realize it. I thought it was Tourette's, but it's. I think you call it Tourette's, but if you say syndrome, then it becomes Tourette syndrome, according to the text on this film. Anyway, that's one of the many things I learned. So this wasn't my idea to watch this. There's no guns or car chases or anything. But I'm glad I was convinced to watch it because I really enjoyed it. It's frequently funny. It's challenging. It's occasionally shocking and tragic and sweet-natured and ultimately very rewarding. All the things you want out of a film. It's also got Peter Mullen in it, like, because it's set in Scotland, obviously, he's in it, chewing the scenery, and I think he's not a big part of it, but he's a very welcome addition. And the best scene for me in the film, there was a scene where the character Davidson is applying for a job interview. He's at a job interview for a job as a caretaker with Peter Mullen, and despite all of his tics, Peter Mullen is just kind of accepts that that's the way he is, and he offers him the job. And as he does it, he involuntarily punches Peter Mullen's dog as one of his tics, because he kind of hits people randomly as part of it, and it just, the whole world stops, and you just think, oh God, now he's blown this interview, and he just very calmly tells him that he's got the job, but if you ever hit my dog again, I'm going to rip your fucking heart out. And he means it, and it's stone cold, and yet it sort of imbues that kind of, I don't know, it captures something about the whole film, about how complicated it is, and how every time he's successful, he's only a fraction of a second away from the next trip up. And it's sort of shocking, and you kind of hate him for punching the dog, and yet you understand he didn't mean to do it. And it's kind of humorous, but it's also kind of dark. It's great. It's really, really well done. And the main guy, Robert Aramayo, who plays Davidson, I've seen him in a couple of things, but he's really good. And then there's an earlier sequence where he's played by a kid as a younger, and he completely puts you on board with that character. You feel so sorry for him, because everyone assumes that when he starts developing these tics as I guess an early teenager, they think he's just playing up and he's getting caned, and his parents are beating him and berating him for everything. But he's very fortunate to meet a couple of people like Peter Mullen's character who really look after him and take him under his wing. So he goes through hell, but he's got people who try to understand him and care for him, and it's very rewarding. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it's a real shame that it got overshadowed by what happened at the BAFTAs.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's raised the conversation, which is what this film is trying to do, is just get people talking about it and understanding, being more understanding. So yeah, really, really good.
Oh, that sounds really full on. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, Robert Aramayo he's one of the highlights of Rings of Power. I like him.
Oh yes, that's one of the things I've seen him in.
I'm trying to work out he's very distinctive, isn't he? I feel like I've seen him in something. I'm trying to work out what it was. Oh, maybe the
Game of Thrones, but as a young Sean Bean, weirdly.
I don't know. I don't know if I've just seen him in something on TV or whatever. Yeah, I recognize him though. I do recognize him. Now move on to the Arkansas, which I actually did for a change. I very rarely do these because I'm so busy planning stuff and get everything sorted that I forget to do it. But it was really funny. I sat down with Faye and I said, right, it's Kurt Russell to Charles Grodin, so let's see if we can do this. And I got a notepad out. We poured a glass of wine each, and I was like, let's see if we can do this. And I did it in about 30 seconds. I thought, oh, that was a bit of a letdown. I was hoping to really chew the fat for half an hour and have a laugh.
Yeah.
So are we doing it, the three of us, then see what the audience thought?
I think we may have some similar answers here.
Okay, I'll go first if that's cool, because I never really do it. I'm going to try and do it from now on. So I had Charles Grodin was in Beethoven with Oliver Platt, who was in Ready to Rumble with David Arquette, who was in 3,000 Miles to Graceland with Kurt Russell. So I had a three-stepper.
Okay.
Okay.
Charles Grodin was also in Midnight Run with Robert De Niro, who was in Backdraft with Kurt Russell.
Which is what I've got.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a two-step, but let's see what the fans thought. So Max said, well, it's in my head. Kurt Russell was in A Hateful Eight with Samuel L. Jackson, who was in Captain America with Stanley Tucci, who was in Beethoven with Charles Grodin. We'll work on getting a tour, but I suspect 3 will be my best. And he was right, apparently, because I didn't receive anything else. Ed Wellband said, this is my favorite one, by the way, just because it mentions it. Russell was in Tango and Cash with Sylvester Stallone, who was in Expendables with Arnie, who was in Red Heat with James Belushi, and in Taking Care of Business with Charles Grodin, which is file of facts. So that's good. Dave Chod said Kurt Russell was in Captain Ron with Martin Short, who was in Clifford with Charles Grodin, which is a very unique two-stepper. And Lee Wiles said Russell was in Backdraft with De Niro, who's in Midnight Run with Grodin, which is the reverse of what you said. So I'm going to give this week's award to Dave Chod, who said Kurt Russell was in Captain Ron with Martin Short, who was in Clifford with Charles Grodin, just because it's not the usual route. Sorry, route.
Unique two-step.
The usual route. So what's the next AZ going to be then? Are we going to say Ryan Gosling? And then to maybe an actor from a previous generation like Brian Bosworth? Or what are we going to do?
Okay.
Well, I've chosen
Ryan Gosling. So, okay. It's got to be someone a bit obscure then, I guess. It's a bit tricky with my ones because 2 of them are documentaries.
Is it preemptive to say oh my God, what's his name? The guy who's recently left us.
Oh, Chuck Norris.
Oh,
Chuck Norris. Jesus, I was thinking Charles Bronson.
Ryan Gosling,
Do you know that could be really good because he was in films with Bruce Lee. He was in The Expendables, which opens up a lot of avenues.
Yeah, yes.
That's true.
He was in oh my God, Lone Wolf McQuade with David Carradine. So yeah, I think that could be a good one actually, Lazlo. So it's Ryan Gosling to Chuck Norris, that classic path that everyone whistles out loud as they go to work to blow their brains out. So what would you say? So that's Ryan Gosling to Chuck Norris. What would you say
Chuck Norris
are the films of the week for you both?
Not Superman. I would say Tell Them You Love Me, the documentary.
Because it sounded like a barrel of laughs.
Exactly.
I'm assuming, Lazlo, you're gonna have to go with that. I swear, surely that was a powerful review.
Really, don't I? Because I loved the action of War Machine, but if we're talking proper films, I Swear was by far the best of the week.
Well, I think I can safely say War Machine because as much as I enjoyed Hitman the Cobra, Fall Guy was it. I'll say War Machine with Alan Ritchson / Greg Davis. And that unfortunately takes us to the end of another episode. So we'll be back soon so Lazlo can go through his other 46 films. But what we'll do is we'll end, as we always do, with me, I think it's my turn this time, taking a deep breath and making a really tedious sound until I run out of breath.